colleagues, Youth Forum participants, our esteemed panelists, audience members online and in this room. It's such an honor to have you all here with us and to have such an amazing group of speakers today. My name is Catherine Harrington. I am the manager of the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights, which is a coalition of national and international organizations, impacted activists, and partner UN agencies working together to end gender discrimination in nationality laws. It is really an honor to have this group here together today for the ECOSOC Youth Forum side event, Mobilizing for Gender Equal Nationality Laws for Inclusive, Sustainable Development and Youth Empowerment. I want to thank our co-sponsors, the UN Refugee Agency, UNICEF, UN Women, and the Global Alliance to End Statelessness, along with Women's Refugee Commission, which houses the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights, and my position as campaign manager. I want to thank these co-sponsors for their steadfast support for efforts to achieve gender equality and nationality laws worldwide. We've been working closely together as partners for over 10 years now. First, a quick housekeeping note for our colleagues online. There is Arabic interpretation online for those that would like to use it. So I think folks by now are familiar with the Zoom function, so you can select that. The Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights was launched in 2014 to build on and bring together the efforts of feminist activists, organizations, impacted families, political leaders, and other influential allies that are fighting to end gender discrimination and nationality laws. As we begin this event, it's important to recognize a few realities. Gender discriminatory nationality laws, laws that deny women the right to confer their citizenship on their child or a non-citizen spouse on an equal basis with men. At their core, they undermine women's status as equal citizens and their equality in the family. These laws also result in serious rights violations and hardships experienced by impacted children and youth, and undermine sustainable development. At today's event, you're going to hear about the damage caused by gender discriminatory laws, and you're going to hear about why gender equal nationality laws are so essential to sustainable development. And very importantly, you're going to hear about what we know and what we've learned at the Global Campaign and with our partners, that youth activism is absolutely critical to realizing a world with gender equal nationality laws for all. That youth engagement in campaigns for reform make those campaigns more dynamic, impactful, and sustainable. We at the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights have witnessed the extraordinary impact of youth activism, and I'm so pleased that you will have the chance to learn more from members of our amazing youth network here today. This event was really 5 years in the making. Though the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights has worked with youth since our inception, our dedicated youth program really came out of the pandemic. In 2020, we held our first youth training of trainers, and since then we've supported coalition members around the world to hold youth trainings and implement youth-led advocacy efforts. This past summer, we had our first Global Youth Summit on youth activism for gender equality and nationality laws. And the youth statement, the global youth statement that's going to be launched today and that you're going to hear more about, and Neha will be reading the statement to you, that was developed by youth activists in the wake of the summit that we had together. So you're going to hear soon from youth activists leading reforms, leaders from UN agencies that are supporting these efforts, and later we want to really make sure that we have time to have questions and discussion with the audience here in the room and online. Another little housekeeping note, some of you may have heard that things are a little hectic in the world today and in the country, and some things that are posing challenges for many different entities. So a couple of our speakers unfortunately got called to emergency meetings that were last minute and out of their control. But we are very thrilled to have, and I will introduce now our opening remarks. Unfortunately, UN Women's Deputy Executive Director is unable to be here with us, but we are extremely lucky to have with us Sarah Hendricks, UN Women's UN Women's Director of Programs, who is here with us. And Sarah, thank you very much for last minute coming in and joining this event. So turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And indeed, our Deputy Executive Director, Iniraza Gumunjvanda, sends her very strong regards and wished to be here directly. And so I share these remarks on her behalf. Good afternoon, colleagues and youth leaders participating in this year's forum. It's wonderful to see a room full alongside such great participation online. And it is certainly a great honor for UN Women to join you today for this important and this timely event, really focused on mobilizing for gender equality nationality laws. And I really want to begin by commending such passionate and such determined focus from young people right across the globe who are standing up for a future where no one is denied equal rights simply because of their gender. So congratulations to all that you are doing in this tremendous campaign. And really, this campaign demands change, and it offers such a bold and hopeful vision, a vision of a world where gender discrimination in nationality laws is no longer tolerated. This is enshrined indeed in Article 9 of CEDAW. The equal right to acquire, to change, or retain nationality is actually foundational to our human rights, and it is paramount to women's status as citizens and as members of our own families. And yet we know that persistent nationality laws that discriminate based on gender actually have such devastating and such far-reaching consequences and impacts. When women are denied their right to confer their nationality to their children or to their spouses on the equal basis with men, entire families can be left stateless. Youth and daughters and sons of affected women are so often deprived of access to critical things as a result, whether that's education or healthcare or formal employment or property ownership or the right to travel freely. These are really not abstract issues. They are daily realities for millions upon millions of young people and of women and of their families. Such discrimination actually undermines gender equality and violates human rights and actually hinders the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And put very simply, gender equal nationality laws are not only a legal imperative, they are actually a development necessity, especially in this 5 years until we see the 2030 agenda come to fruition. And well, the challenge is very real. So actually is the momentum for change. And I think today's event is a great exemplar of that. Young people, you are not waiting on the sidelines. You are actually leading the change. You are organizing, you are educating, you are advocating, you are collaborating across borders. And today you are presenting a powerful statement signed by young people from 15 countries in what we know will become a global petition to catalyze action. And so to you as young leaders, please keep pushing. Keep raising awareness in your communities. Keep using your platform to share stories, to connect with allies, to shine a light on the impact of gender discriminatory nationality laws. Please engage with policymakers, organize events, really bring visibility to this issue in every corner and space that you occupy. It is so important. You are the generation that can and that will end this injustice. Alongside you, UN Women is here. UN Women is already working with governments, with civil society, with you as young people to advance equal rights. We are working alongside you to initiate leadership development programs to build the capacity of young women and men, to provide technical assistance to member states, to really raise awareness and to advocate for legal reform. We work also across the UN system. And so together with UNHCR, we've actually just published an updated background note on gender equality, nationality laws, and statelessness. And we will continue to prioritize this issue through our partnership with the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights and with the Global Alliance to End Statelessness and through our Equality in Law for Women and Girls by 2030 initiative. And it is through our work where we work so closely with civil society organizations that are themselves committed to ending discrimination in law, including on nationality. So as I close, together we must uphold the principle that no child should grow up stateless, that no woman should be denied the right to pass on her nationality, that no family should suffer because of gender discrimination in the law. We can no longer dismiss today's young women and men as solely the beneficiaries of development or even as the leaders of tomorrow. For you are actually leading today. The force of your leadership represents one of the critical drivers for accelerating progress on sustainable development and on gender equality, including and especially in regards to nationality rights. So following your lead, together, we will compel member states to end gender discrimination in nationality laws once and for all. The time for reform is now. Let today be the moment that we mobilize even more, young and old, governments and civil society, for a world where nationality laws are finally, fully, and forever gender equal. Thank you so much, and wishing you the very best discussion ahead.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for your leadership and UN Women's steadfast support on this issue and partnership. Thank you for those inspiring words. Issues. Neha, it is my honor to introduce you, a formerly stateless youth activist and co-founder of the Citizenship Affected Peoples Network, one of the longstanding DEAR Coalition members of the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights. Neha, opening up this panel, can you just talk to us about why and how you got involved in activism on this issue?
Thank you, Catherine G. Why I got involved in the activism for gender equal citizenship rights. Well, facing discrimination due to gendered citizenship and nationality laws at such a foundational age shapes not only my identity, but also my purpose. It was a wound that cut deep into my existence. And when the very beginning of your life is struck with such a blow, you only have two options: to fight or flight. And I choose to fight. Raised by a single mother, I had to justify why I deserved citizenship from my mother. And that was the main reason that fueled my purpose to continue on this fight. And the contradiction was glaring. On the one hand, we worshipped women as goddesses and creators, and on the other hand, we denied them the right to lineage, the right to personhood, the right to legal standing, the right to confer citizenship to their own children. Why? Because they're women, because mothers are considered to be a place where fathers plant seed, and that's why fathers are the carrier of lineage. And this absurdity really fuels my fire, this concept. So I believe patriarchy shows its truest and vicious shape in the gender unequal citizenship laws. Because when, like, we've seen women in different kinds of work where they've led from scientific revolution to breakthroughs to nurturing families. And yet, even after fighting for countless battles, both in personal and professional life, we honor them. We honor them how? By stripping them of their basic and fundamental rights to confer citizenship to their children. And no matter how many seminars or conferences we hold about women's empowerment and no matter how well we define feminism, if we do not have conversation about gender equal citizenship rights, which is the basic and most fundamental, because that is the area where now you start defining a human being as a legal person, and then you give them the entity, the autonomy. If you don't have that conversation, the conversation is buried, and it ends even before it begins. The conversation for women empowerment, it ends even before it begins. So, and I like when I got introduced to this concept, when I realized that I was denied citizenship from my mother simply because my mother is a woman, I started questioning, is this really 21st century that we're living in, or are we still assigning rights based on cisgendered male perspective and still upholding the coverture principle that in 1600 European common law we used to practice, where women were thought as being subsumed to their husband after marriage? So are we still assigning rights on that basis? So these kind of questions came into my mind. And also, when we talk about gender unequal citizenship rights and laws, I think it's very important to acknowledge the price women pay. Every time a woman spends another year fighting to confer citizenship to the child, she's sacrificing her time, her energy, her potentialities, her confidence, her dignity, and there is no compensation for this loss. Her sense of self, her will, her existence, all of it is put on trial, and all she wants is to have her child, all she wants is that her child has a belongingness. That's the only ask. And we put her on trial for this simple ask. So how can this be overlooked? How is this not seen as the crisis that it is? And so the day I realized this profound injustice was the day I knew that there is no turning back. Because to stay silent at the face of this war against women for me, it would be another kind of death. So that's why I chose to study law, not just to understand the system, but also to get ready to challenge it. And today I find myself here in US under a Fulbright scholarship doing my master's, but not as a victim, but as a woman determined to change the very system that tried to silence me. And if I had not won my citizenship through my mother after a long legal fight and everything in my country, I wouldn't have, of course, I wouldn't have a passport, and I wouldn't be here with you all doing a master's miles away from my home. And in fact, I wouldn't even get I wouldn't even be granted my law degree in my undergrad without citizenship. So here I stand, not just as an advocate, but as a living testimony to two realities. One, what happens when gender unequal citizenship laws persist? And second reality, what becomes possible when justice is finally served? So those were the, I guess, main principles and values that drove me to continue on this fight and get involved in it.
Thank you so much, Neha. And I think you hit on something that's very important, that in many ways, gender discriminatory nationality laws, I like to think of it as kind of the canary in the coal mine. If you have something so fundamental as the very ability to pass on your own citizenship to your own child, to your own spouse, and women are being denied that right, what will that look like across the laws in those countries that deny women those equal nationality rights? If at that very fundamental of what it means to be an equal citizen. And I think another extremely important point that Neha raises and embodies is what countries have to lose. What countries are losing every day now still in 2025. Neha ended up getting her citizenship, as she said, through a long court battle. And how many countries are losing out because youth, amazing Fulbright scholar youths, just youths that want to pursue their dreams are unable to, and are unable to fully contribute to their country's development simply because women are being denied the same right as men to pass on their citizenship. We have a lot more to talk about. I'm going to go now to our other youth impacted activists online, and then we'll be very happy to turn back to our in-room panel. But I want to turn now to Rabi Samra. our dear colleague, and again, one of the extraordinary members of our youth network. Rabi is an impacted youth activist. He's a leading member with our Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights Youth Network, and a very strong leader in the My Nationality is a Right for Me and My Family youth network in Lebanon. Rabi, thank you so much. I wish we could have you in this room with us today, but we're so thrilled and honored to have you online talking to us from Lebanon. And you're also an impacted youth and have been very much engaged in activism on this issue. What do you want governments to know about and policymakers and those with influence about the impact of gender discrimination in nationality laws on youth?
أولا مرحبا جميعا ويعطيكم ألف عافية.
First, hello, thank you very much for your efforts. Gender discrimination in Lebanon is about 100 years old, since the colonial time of France in Lebanon. The law continued as such for different reasons, including the slow disengagement from the colonial rule, and also because of other internal reasons. The nationality laws have a great impact on all aspects of life, including the children, the upbringing of children, the education, the healthcare, everything. And then the economic side, on the economic side, there is economic consequences. Yeah, young people who don't enjoy the nationality are deprived of certain rights, like joining schools and government universities, getting job opportunities. Also in terms of the human capital and development, human development, young people and women who are impacted negatively by discrimination laws are deprived from their share in the development, in the sustainable or human development in the society. Also, the discrimination creates a bitter feeling within a person. Yeah, the nationality law in Lebanon reinforces the problem of societal problems is when it comes to election laws, for example. I have a relative who is married to a foreigner. Yeah, this relative of mine who is married to a foreigner is deprived from the ability or the right to have her children in school. Also, there is another consequence that people who suffer from statelessness cannot join labor unions. All of this impacts the families. We have a colleague whose husband is one country her children in another country. We have people who are unable to practice their professions because of that. With reference to the youth summit in Istanbul that was first concluded there, we were invited, but the embassy of Turkey did not give us a visa. During Corona, Lebanon opened the airports for Lebanese students to come back, but they forgot that there are certain Lebanese students who in fact were stateless because their fathers were foreigners and they could not come back. Yeah. The discrimination, gender discrimination impacts negatively human development, and social justice suffers. Stability in a society suffers because of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rabi. And you brought up a number of really important points about the fact that youth, when they're looking to pursue certain professions in Lebanon and in other countries that deny women equal nationality rights, non-citizen children can't access professional unions and syndicates, can't sit for exams to get licenses for certain professions. And, you know, there were many extremely tragic outcomes during the pandemic where you had, for example, in a number of countries where borders were being closed for foreigners to enter the country, but citizens were allowed to return back home if you were out of the country. Well, what if it's the country you were born and raised in, but you don't have nationality of that country because you can't get it from your mother? So you had families that were separated. And we have families separated outside of the pandemic. In many countries, even a child has to get a residency permit and even get sponsorship through a private company like any other foreigner just to remain in the country that they were born and raised in. So thank you, Rabi, for sharing these experiences. And we're going to come back to you before we go to the Q&A. So thank you so much. And now it is my great honor. It is my great honor to introduce Sivanka Dhanapala, the director of the UN Refugee Agency's office in New York. Again, we'll have back up on the screen in a moment. You can get those bios from the QR code, but really an honor to have you here with us today and to have the UN Refugee Agency as such a close partner in this effort. We've been really fortunate to work closely with the UN Refugee Agency since the launch of the campaign in 2014, the same year that the UNHCR launched its 10-year I Belong campaign to end statelessness. So while I'm fortunate to know about UNHCR's efforts to support gender equality and nationality laws, it would be wonderful if you would please share with our esteemed audience, how is the UN Refugee Agency engaging on this issue, and how can other stakeholders help achieve a world that upholds gender equality in all nationality laws?
Thank you very much, Catherine. I mean, I think, firstly, actually, a big thank you also to Neha and Rabi. It was very interesting listening to your statements and to listen to your lived experience on these issues. In a sense, I speak, I would say, not so much as an international civil servant. I'd like to say I speak as a practitioner because, you know, it's counterintuitive when you think of the UN Refugee Agency. You think we deal with refugees, but our other very significant mandate is, in fact, statelessness. And in a number of the countries that I have been posted in, I was just saying this to my colleague Scott on the way here, my job has been to advocate with governments, you know, how can we combat statelessness? How can we prevent it? And of course, one of our biggest concerns is gender discrimination in nationality laws, because when there is gender discrimination, there can, of course, be people who lapse into a situation of statelessness. And this is far more prevalent than we'd like to think. I mean, I think, Catherine, you mentioned there are still 24 countries in the world that still deny women the right of citizenship, where compared to men, and over 40 countries that retain at least one gender discriminatory provision in their nationality laws. And may I point out also that, you know, despite having a mandate for statelessness and the reduction and prevention of statelessness, this is such a magnitude to this challenge that, in a sense, this room embodies the partnerships that are required to address this huge issue. But for us in UNHCR, and I think our primary focus is really addressing the laws that deny women equal rights to pass on their nationality to their children. Because for us as well, I mean, when fathers are absent or it's unknown where they might be, and in situations of conflict and persecution, when people are on the move, this is very often the case, and where there's no ability to pass on nationality, children can really be left without nationality. And what does that mean? It means no access to education. I think Neha and Rabi were also mentioning this. No access to healthcare, and other very basic rights. And of course, it haunts you for the whole life unless it is in fact addressed in a critical way. What are we doing? Of course, we work with states. Like I was saying, I advocated with governments in my field duty stations to reform nationality laws. And very often, there really is already a grassroots movement that we can try and support, whether it's at the grassroots level among communities, whether it's by NGOs, whether it is in the legislature, where you have a number of active women very often representing these issues in Parliament, to really get this across. So a lot of advocacy and technical and legal advice, of course, sharing good practices. These are all extremely important. Now, as I said, we can't do this alone, and so we're a proud member of the steering committee of the Global Campaign for Equal Nationality Rights. And of course, wherever we can partner with civil society, with many of you out there, these are the voices that are really important in helping to build the momentum for change that is necessary, whether it's at the community level, national level, regional level, international, and so on. Now, annually, we actually publish a background note on gender discrimination in nationality laws, which kind of details and analyzes discriminatory provisions in national legislation. And I think this is one of the authoritative, let's say, sources of this kind of highlighting of recent legal developments. Our goal is to end gender discrimination in nationality laws. And of course, we have the 10-year campaign that you referred to, Catherine, began as I Belong, the I Belong campaign to end statelessness, concluding December last year. And of course, over the course of this, in 3 countries, we were actually very successful: in Madagascar, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, where there was a successful reform of their nationality laws to remove gender discrimination. Most recently, in Malaysia, for example, there's been a constitutional amendment bill to grant Malaysian women equal rights to confer nationality on their children born abroad. Once this amendment comes into play, the number of countries will actually drop to 23. So that's in itself a major achievement. Now, last year, as the I Belong campaign was coming to an end, that's clearly there's a lot more work to be done. We can't conclude it there. So we've actually launched now a global alliance to end statelessness, which of course involves a number of stakeholders, frankly, a lot of the people, agencies, and I'll highlight that in a moment, really trying to, how can we accelerate now? We've made a lot of progress. How can we go even faster towards a statelessness free world? We have 138 members, 23 governments, 11 intergovernmental organizations, 4 UN agencies, and 16, this is very important, stateless community-led organizations, because we believe very much in having community-led organizations help us in hearing their voices that can inform the way ahead. So obviously, gender equal nationality laws is also a key objective for the Alliance. And the Alliance includes a working group on addressing gender discriminatory nationality laws and policies. And we're inviting state, civil society actors and experts to join these efforts and really contribute to advancing reform. Now, I think the second part of your question was very much, other stakeholders, how can they help? I've already mentioned a number, but governments, I think, is probably one of the most important, because they're the ones who can actually move the needle in terms of legislation. Youth, all of you, can be extremely powerful agents for change. I think the main challenge is raising awareness within your communities and really engaging in a dialogue and creating that grassroots movement. Civil society, I think I mentioned that earlier, but civil society organizations, especially led by women and affected communities, would play a major role. We have to also reach out to donors, and I think it's particularly evident now how, with the decline in funding that we're seeing, the decline in political appetite as well, how that immediately impacts the kind of work that we're carrying out on the ground, and that's extremely important. And of course, regional organizations as well can play an important role. But I think most important is all of you here, and how you go back to your communities, the kind of contributions that you can make in listening to the voices out there, but then also engaging them and being an agent for change, as I was saying. So all of that, and we can work towards statelessness-free society. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And you brought up donors very appropriately. We're going to hear more in the conversation and we talk about the youth statement, the amazing work that youth activists across the global campaign are doing with coalition members and all of the momentum that's been built. You mentioned the very, very exciting constitutional amendment that was just passed in Malaysia. Both houses of parliament passed it in October and December, the upper house. So once that gets entered into the Gazette, that will mean that we can take that country off the list in terms of women having the equal right to confer nationality on their children. So yes. And that campaign, campaigns and this work by youth activists, it requires support. So we do need, and advocacy work can be done with really modest support. It is, there's a lot of need out there. There's a lot of, problems that we're facing in the world that require a lot of resources. But to do this work, it doesn't take massive amounts of resources, but the resources have to come to support this work, because it is civil society, it's feminist organizations, it's youth groups that we're very fortunate to work with that are leading these efforts and having an amazing impact. But the work, it has to be funded for it to continue, and for us to continue to see the successes that we were so excited to celebrate in Malaysia last year. You also mentioned, on the one hand, we can look at this from a positive, angle. 90% of countries globally uphold citizens' equal right to confer citizenship on their children. And at 2025, we think that it's far past time that should be 100%, right? So we have today still 24 countries. Once we take Malaysia off, hopefully very, very soon, once that gets into the Gazette, we'll have 23. But then we also have over 40 countries that have some form of gender discrimination in their nationality laws. So that includes those where women lack the equal right to pass citizenship to a non-citizen spouse. I say non-citizen because it could be a foreigner. It also could be a stateless man. And of course, if he's stateless, then that means that their children would have a very high likelihood of being rendered stateless as well. And, I think it's worth also just defining, because statelessness is one of those terms that even for folks working in the human rights sector or on gender equality, it's oftentimes overlooked and not always understood. When we say stateless, we literally mean that there is no country, there's no state government that considers that individual to be a national, to be a citizen. No country in the world counts that person as a citizen. So there's no chance to get, a passport, to be able to cross boundaries, to go to another place to try and seek opportunities. And yet you're denied in many cases, I mean, even the ability to move within the country to equally access education, healthcare, formal employment as an adult. So, and when you hear about women don't have the equal right to pass citizenship on a spouse, unless you're someone who's very motivated by gender equality, which we hope all of you are, and we think everyone should be today, it sometimes can sound to people, oh, is that such an important issue? Well, yes, fundamentally, it undermines their status as equal citizens, but it also, what does that mean when a child does not have their father's equal right to access citizenship, to access residency, to access formal employment? So you see how all of these things are very much interconnected. I want to turn back now to our panelists to have kind of a more brief response for this second round, and then we'll move into, we'll share a very short video, but it has a number of other impacted youth and leading youth activists that we'll share with you in a moment. And then we'll turn it over to have questions from the audience. But first, I want to turn back to you, Sivanka, and we're in this moment in the world where we're facing high levels of migration, climate change, conflict, economic downturns. There's crises left and right wherever you look. With all of this that's going on, why should people care about this issue?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of noise out there, isn't there? Very shrill narratives and rhetoric, and of course, that has also a very real impact on a lot of people. I think despite all the noise that's out there, I think it's important not to overlook issues that really lie at the root of exclusion and inequality. And of course, discriminatory nationality laws are one of them, and it has such a huge impact on the life of the individual. So I think the issue of gender unequal nationality laws and statelessness has real far-reaching consequences, and it is exacerbated in situations in times of crisis. So I mentioned earlier how it impacts access to education, healthcare, legal employment, and so on. But it also means, exclusion in terms of social protection, I think. And when there's an economic downturn, what does that mean? When there's a natural disaster, what does that mean in terms of access to relief and so on? Or even a safe passage when you are, in the throes of displacement, when you're fleeing from a situation, when you don't have documentation, and there's nothing that you can show that this is who you are that much more vulnerable. So the exclusion, that marginalization, just because of a denial of nationality, really stands in the way of stable and inclusive societies. So with the increase of migration and displacement, as you were saying, Catherine, now we're seeing a lot of displacement happening also because of climate change. The impact of some of these unequal gender nationality laws is only growing. We're having more children being born into situations where they're literally falling between the cracks and ending up stateless. So again, that points to how important it is to reform nationality laws and ensure gender equality is not just a matter of human rights. It's really essential in building inclusive societies, resilient societies, and enabling young people to thrive. And finally, just to say, I think it's important to keep in mind that what we're talking about is it's something that's entirely man-made, right? You were saying earlier, it doesn't take a lot of resources. It does take some resources, but we're talking about the reform of laws that are made by human beings. It's not inevitable, and it's something that is easily solvable. The solutions are very clear. It just takes political will. It takes advocates, it takes advocacy. So to amend and uphold these laws and on the principles of equality. So really, I think with engagement, with trying to drown out that noise, we can actually succeed.
We believe so. And I think that's a really important point, that it's, it requires political will. There are lots of, massive problems and challenges facing the world today, some of which we don't yet know the solution to. We don't have a quick answer to climate change yet. We know some things we should be doing. Other things perhaps take significant resources to fix. This is a problem with a known solution that does not require significant resources. It requires the political will. And that's in part why we have all of you hopefully here joining us now, because we all have the power to build that political will, to really show policymakers that they need to act and they need to address these discriminatory laws. So, this is a perfect segue to, we're here in part to focus on youth's critical role in activism for gender equal nationality laws. So can you share with us a little bit, Neha, about how youth are mobilizing to support these reforms?
To start with, I would like to start with saying that youth are the most promising hope for the just tomorrow, but hope is not enough. So we can already see youth changing that hope into action. And we can see that also in the gender equal citizen, like youth working for gender equal citizenship rights. Youth are changing that hope into action already, grounded on education, fueled by lived experiences and guided by the purpose, like I said earlier. And just to quickly talk about linking back to my organization, Citizenship Affected People's Network, and in support and collaboration with the Global Campaign on Equal National Rights since 2014. Youth are always at the forefront in Nepal, not just participating, but leading. Each of our initiatives are grounded in strategic planning, and it's very intentional. We understand that this issue cannot be solved without youth taking the ownership, because youth are the ones, like new generations are the ones who are ending up being stateless. I've seen individuals who, without citizenship, like literally, I've dealt with cases in my organization where individuals without citizenship, they're trafficked. They've tricked into jobs that are very exploitative because they don't have any other options. I've seen individuals who've committed suicide. I've seen individuals who've really their life is ruined because it's extremely difficult out there without job, education, anything, without documentation. And I've seen, I had a friend who died of drug overdose because it really ruins your life without documentation. It's a very difficult life out there. So our flagship, just to flag a few things, like we have a flagship school outreach program, which is driven and trained. We train young individuals in schools and high schools and graduate, undergrad level, and they're the one who go out there and build, like they are having more training with other youths, and they're not only spreading awareness, but they're reshaping the conversations in the classrooms. And across districts also, we have built coalitions of impacted youths, like youths who are impacted by gender discriminatory citizenship laws. We have coalitions across districts in Nepal, and we constantly work in collaboration with them. And we're even initiating a program called From Pain to Power, which basically is like we're building capacity of these impacted youths so that they can do paralegal work at the community level and provide the legal help other impacted individuals to get citizenship and in their legal processes. And also through creative platforms like Vox Pop, podcasts, digital campaigns, like digital social media campaigns in CAPN, we're not only informing the grassroots communities, we're also inspiring them. And recently we completed a youth-led research, which was supported by Global Campaign on Equal National Rights, where we did a research on the recently amended Nepal's citizenship legislation, its implementation status. And this research will definitely have an impact on how we reshape our advocacy in the future. And without the resources again, and without support, without collaboration, and without youth engaging in this research, it wouldn't have been possible. And we're not alone, like we mentioned earlier, in Malaysia too. It was youths who came up with creative ideas and campaigns, social media campaigns, and they really reshaped the whole narrative. And especially in Malaysia, we could see the powerful reminder that determined, informed, and united youth can accomplish so much. So in the globally also, the global campaign on equal rights, last year we had a youth summit that brought together youths from different, like across the borders from these countries that had gender discriminatory citizenship laws. And in this summit, the GCNR gathered all these youths, and it was a space basically to build on the ongoing collaboration we were individually doing in our countries, so that we can come together and now build a more solid network, have more solid conversations and exchange and strategize and build more solidarity together. And a major milestone of this collective of the youth was the youth statement that we are launching today. So a youth statement for gender equality in nationality laws, which was authored and endorsed by youth from multiple countries. We sat together, we discussed. It was a months of discussions back and forth. And we are in the statement, in the petition, we're calling on governments to eliminate gender discriminatory citizenship laws, and to ensure equal citizenship rights for everyone. I would like to say that the momentum is right now. We've built a lot of momentum throughout this so many years. And this momentum is extremely crucial. Like if we lose it now, the setback will be very severe and the cost will be very high. We need to hold on to this momentum and really build on it. We must carry this forward. And today, I'm really honored to announce that we are launching the youth statement. And this statement is not just simply a document. Let it be a declaration of all the youths that we as youths we're not waiting for change to happen, but we are making it happen. And really all the momentum that we've gathered, it's extremely important that all the youths, like it doesn't take a lot of resources or a lot of time and energy, it just needs intention. And I really urge all the youths to please sign the petition, please spread the words, and let's make it a really intentional and a widespread movement. And it's just 23 countries and 24 countries. Let's have a world that has 100% gender equal citizenship laws. For that, I really call upon everyone to support the petition. You don't have to do extraordinary things. You just have to be intentional and really speak about it, and really unite. I'd like to say that. Would you like to read me to read the youth statement already, or in a way?
Maybe we'll go to Rabi quickly, and then we'll turn back to you for the youth statement before we do the video. Thank you, Neha. So Rabi, before we read the youth statement, you've been involved a lot in youth activism, and it would be great if you could share with our colleagues here and online any recommendations that you have how people can get involved and support reform efforts.
طبعا أول شيء بدي بلش إنه نحن
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say that we as youth people, we are the leaders of change. We are the leaders of change. We are the ones that must achieve sustainable development. We believe in ourselves. That's why I started as a young man my efforts, my involvement in the anti-discrimination movement in Lebanon to achieve a society more just and more comprehensive, more embracing society. We need to be at the forefront of change. My involvement in this campaign in Lebanon is a testimony to my belief in this campaign, in this purpose, noble purpose of equality for all. We made an effort and urged and called on decision makers in Lebanon to modify the laws in Lebanon, the discriminatory laws in Lebanon. We were working with university students recently to organize workshops to introduce them to the laws of discrimination or discriminatory laws in Lebanon, and how to work with us and get the message through. Yeah, we wanted to make an impact in the public discourse. I also contributed to or participated in the youth summit last year in Istanbul, and I also participated in the social media campaigns to the Jinsiyati campaign, which is my nationality campaign. That's the name of the organization. This was reinforced also in the campaign that I participated in, the global campaign. So we in Lebanon are working with regional and international activists. We exchange experience and ideas with other organizations, networks, societies working in the same domain. Okay, well, I see the world that I see as a world without any discrimination is kind of a revolutionary concept. I see it as a revolutionary idea, and that's great. We need to keep the momentum for that. Also, as youths, we should not look at ourselves as marginal elements in societies. No, we are leaders. We should have the confidence to be at the forefront of our societies. Societies need to be more just for everybody, more just for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi. All right, so now we've talked about the youth statement. We've mentioned it many times. I think it's time for us to hear it. It's not very long. Neha will read it out. Then we have a very short, it's a 3-minute video, and then we will have time for conversation with all of you with the remainder of the time. So Neha, please take us away.
Okay, so the youth statement by the Youth Campaign on Gender Equal National Rights. We, youth from among the countries that retain gender discriminatory nationality laws and allies, seek to realize a world where all women have the right to pass on their citizenship on an equal basis with men. We stand united in calling for an end to gender discrimination in nationality laws, a framework that considers women as second-class citizens and inhibits sustainable development. These discriminatory laws harm entire families, destabilize communities, and deny countless persons the opportunity to thrive. Today, over 20 countries have nationality laws that deny women the right to confer their nationality to their children on an equal basis with men. Over 40 countries deny women the equal right to pass their nationality to a non-citizen spouse. Those denied citizenship as a result of gender discrimination in nationality laws often face obstacles in accessing education, healthcare, employment, financial services, property rights, inheritance, and freedom of movement. They may even be rendered stateless. These discriminatory nationality laws are contributing to poverty and holding countries back. A world without gender discriminatory nationality laws would be transformative. It would mean more children growing up, fulfilling their potential, more families living in dignity and stability, and stronger society benefiting from the contributions of all their citizens' children. More children could dream freely, learn without barriers, and thrive without bureaucratic obstacles. Such a world would foster prosperity, unity, and opportunity that benefits everyone. We call on all the governments, policymakers, politicians to act now. Reform nationality laws to uphold equality. It is not only the right thing to do, but it is a smart thing to do. Putting these discrimination behind us once and for all is the interest of everyone. We call on civil society, the United Nations, and those committed to advancing gender equality, children's well-being, and sustainable development to amplify our voices, raise their efforts, and advocate with us to end gender discrimination in nationality laws. By upholding gender equality in nationality laws, we can create a more equitable, just, and prosperous future. Let us work hand in hand to build a future where no one is denied their inherent right to belong and no woman is denied equal citizenship.
Thank you, Neha. And now a few members of our youth network that couldn't be with us in person here today have a few brief messages to share.
We, the youth of Eswatini, stand for gender equal nationality laws and a statelessness free world. You can also play your part. Sign the youth statement, make a difference.
Make a difference and help end gender unequal nationality laws today.
Salam Sejahtera, I'm Abdullah from Malaysia and I'm a child of binational parents. As a child in a binational family, I'm fortunate to obtain citizenship in the country I live in. But gender discriminatory citizenship laws have prevented other children of binational couples like me from accessing citizenship. This prevents them from accessing education, healthcare, and other opportunities that impact their lives as well. Worst of all, this inequity prevents children from being children. It's time for the young people around the world to join hands in ending gender discriminatory citizenship laws and to sign the Youth Statement on Gender Equality in Nationality Laws to ensure that all countries adopt gender equal citizenship laws that allow everyone to confer citizenship to their children and spouses. Our voice matters.
Hi, I'm Priyanjana and I'm from Nepal. In many countries, women still can't pass their nationality rights to their children, and this must end now. I support equal nationality rights because women are still treated as a second-class citizen in their own home, and this is a blatant discrimination against them.
Hello, Sanbonani. My name is Sanel Siwetwana from Eswatini. Eswatini is one of 24 countries that still deny women the right to pass their nationality to their children, and that is unjust. As a young person, I fully support equal nationality rights because a child's rights should never be determined by their parents' gender. So join us today in this fight against discrimination by signing the Youth Statement for Gender Equality Rights because your voice matters.
Hi, my name is Niba and I'm from Malaysia. I'm an adult impacted child by the previously unequal citizenship laws in Malaysia that did not allow Malaysian mothers to confer citizenship to their overseas born children. What that meant is a lot of children like me had to face a lot of difficulties while growing up until their adult years. When I was in primary school, when I was in high school, I had to let go a lot of opportunities because I was not Malaysian. Another difficulty was trying to find a good job. It was very heartbreaking at every single turn in my life. I felt like I had to fight for everything. And it really breaks my heart because the person that fought so much with me, that one person, she passed away and she wasn't even able to see me become Malaysian. I think that all countries must adopt gender equal citizenship laws so that nobody else has to suffer like this. Nobody has to wait until they're in their 20s to finally get the same right and have so many missed opportunities. Thank you.
I urge everyone to sign the youth petition for gender equal citizenship rights, urging all the countries, stakeholders, UN, policymakers, CSOs, and everyone to come together because everyone's voice matters. I urge you to sign it today.
Make a difference and help end gender unequal nationality laws today.
Thanks to our youth network members for sending in their video messages. You can see everybody did that very DIY on their own. So we're scrappy, but we're getting the message out there. So now I'm really want to turn over the floor to you and hear your questions for the panelists. And we'll pay attention to those online questions as well. Maybe we can take a couple to start with. And if you could direct, if it's for a particular panelist, please let us know, or if it's open. But yes, please go ahead. Oh, we'll give you a microphone. Sorry, thanks. And if you can speak slowly for the interpreter, that would be wonderful. I should have reminded myself at the beginning.
Definitely. Thank you all so much for being here and sharing your knowledge and insights. My name is Erica Shagan. I'm representing the UNA of the United States at the University of Southern California and the Peace Corps. My question is for Mr. Tanapala. I'm wondering if you could touch more on the successful reform in the 3 countries you mentioned. I believe it was Liberia, Sierra Leone, and another country. What exactly were the reforms that were enacted, and what strategies or techniques led to these reforms? Was it mostly internal political pressure, economic pressure, or did the UNHCR play a major role? Basically, what mechanisms have been successful, and how can this approach be applied to other countries that haven't made as much progress? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We take a few?
Yeah, we'll take a few. Yes, we could 1, 2, and then I'll look online as well. So thanks right here. Yeah, we'll give you a microphone. Thanks. Start.
Yes.
Yes, great.
It's very interesting to hear what you're doing on statelessness, and the statement is very inspiring, and also the work UNHCR is doing on statelessness. My name is Susan, and I'm a human rights lawyer myself. I've worked at the International Labour Organization in Geneva, where I worked on several projects that focused on combating child labor and forced labor. And like you said, we indeed saw some cases where children that were involved in child labor were stateless. And I'm wondering, like, do you have like any ideas or suggestions what an organization like the ILO should do in such cases, or what they should do better? How to better collaborate with the states to really address the root causes of statelessness? Thank you.
Okay, I want to add question to both of them, and questions both of you. I'm from Center for Youth Development Activity. We work with the youth and women. And my question is, when you're talking to the government and about the nationality law, so what are the consequences? Is government thinking that it's not easy to make that law easily? So what are the government point of view when you face a challenge, to give the answer them? So what are the consequences? I want to know why government is not happily accepting this. Yeah.
I like that last question so much.
I don't know if you want to go backwards or alternate, and happy to jump in on the Madagascar. I was fortunate to be there with your colleagues, so.
Thank you. I think it was the 3 countries were Madagascar, Sierra Leone, and Liberia.
Yep.
And I think on those, I'll hand over to Catherine, but maybe just to say that I was in the last years, I was also posted in Syria before coming here for 3 years. I had conversations with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the time there, very much on among a slew of different issues, because of course there were a number of issues that we were seized with on the protection front there. But one was gender discrimination in their nationality laws and how we could address that. I was also in Iran, by the way, and that Iran was one country where legislation has actually taken place. I'm not sure, I haven't studied it post-legislation. There might be still things that are, there are shortcomings within that law, but there was some progress. And just to say that I mentioned this earlier in my statement, that there are sometimes already grassroots initiatives within the legislature that you can kind of piggyback on and really build on the momentum that has already been generated. And that is something that is certainly worthwhile doing. I would say, what are the big obstacles? Very often, it's a case of demystifying the issue. I think there's an immediate kind of wariness when a government looks upon stateless persons or the allocation of citizenship or nationality. Then, of course, there's a perception that this could be a huge economic burden as well. But in point of fact, if nationality and citizenship are accorded to individuals who can then contribute legally to the labor market as well, this will actually be contributing to the economy. So there's a number of counter arguments there. And I think the main thing for me is injecting that awareness raising, trying to demystify, takes a lot of patience. And therefore, the wider you cast the net in terms of the folks that advocate for this, the better, because then it becomes all from a somewhat alien issue to something which is a little bit more solvable, you know.
Neha, you want to jump?
You want to add anything on the
I can come back
before
up to you.
Okay. No, I just want to go backward from the last question because it was about why do countries actually are reluctant to change or reform the laws. I think from what I know from all my advocacy and the work that I've done and in my analysis, it's basically the patriarchal concept. And they hide it under the concept of xenophobia, where they say if we grant citizenship to children of mothers whose husband is foreigner, the father is foreigner, then the children are not, the concept where when you marry, there's a coverture principle in it started from the common law system where you say when a woman is married to a man, then the woman becomes her identity is subsumed in man. So she has to take the surname of the husband. She has to go to the husband's family, and she's no more the family of her original parent. Now she becomes a family member of the husband. So that is the concept, the patriarchal concept, and that has flowed into the law. And the law says like, once a woman is married to a foreigner, the child becomes a foreign national. So that's the patriarchal concept, and lot of the countries still hold tight to it. It's not necessarily the original cultural concept, but it's a legal concept that has seeped in the laws. So that is one. But the other argument that when we counteract that argument, and there's nothing the government can say, the other argument that the government comes up with is, if we grant citizenship to these children of foreign fathers, and then our country will be swamped in by all these foreigners because they're foreigners, these children are foreigners, right? So, and then there's a xenophobic concept in a lot of the countries. But I don't see the argument in that as well, because you are giving citizenship to the children of where the mother is foreigner, right? And the child, the man is a Nepali, for example. The man is a national of that country, and the woman is a national of another country. Now you're giving citizenship to that women as well, and the children as well, and there's no issue of xenophobia or people coming in and taking in your country. But when it comes to women, there's a threat to the country and nation and nationality. So a woman, you see, is a very powerful, like they can have threats. I guess that's why he's scared about it. But I don't see any rationality in those arguments. But those are the arguments that governments give, and it's like you mentioned, we need to demystify the concept, because it's mixed with rationality, but then it's mixed with all these irrational things, and then it's very important we segregate it, and then deal with it one thing at a time, and then also have dialogues with governments, because a lot of time not everybody thinks clearly. It's the general notion that's in the society and stereotypes. We just tend to believe in it. We don't question it. And it's very important that we constantly engage in it. So I just wanted to add that.
Catherine, can I just make one point and then just a suggestion also? It's about a community that was stateless for some time that I never worked with professionally, but it's from my own country. I come from Sri Lanka. And we had several 100,000, they were referred to as estate Tamil laborers. In other words, members of the Tamil ethnic group who were, in a sense, imported during the British colonial time to what was then Ceylon to work on the tea plantations. And when the British left, this community remained. They were not looked upon as being from Sri Lanka, also by the Tamil ethnic group that was more endemic to Sri Lanka. And they were in a legal state of limbo for some time. Fortunately, I mean, it took a long time. Sri Lanka gained independence in 1948. It was only in the early 1990s that finally the government of India and the government of Sri Lanka agreed to allow the choice of nationality to be given to this population. Of course, most opted to stay. But this is a good case study as well to be looked at. And I know that in UNHCR, we were involved at the government level, but we can't claim to have been the ones who influenced it in a positive way.
But of course, to your point, and this is what we've seen when we look at the instances of Liberia, Sierra Leone, Madagascar, it is this interrelationship between a really strong grassroots, bottom up, in this instance, really led by feminist organizations that are working with, and when it's really impactful, centering the voices of impacted families, impacted mothers, impacted youth, working together in the feminist organizations, working with other civil society groups, those that are focused on sustainable development and children's rights and inclusion, and really elevating attention to the harm caused and the benefits of reform, but working closely with and benefiting from also engagement and pressure from, encouragement, I'll say, from the UN agencies that talk to governments, help to make them understand why these reforms are in their best interest. Peer member states, you have human rights mechanisms through the United Nations, like the Universal Periodic Review process, where other peer states make recommendations to their peers about ways that their progress on human rights issues that would be beneficial for their countries. So by having these actors working closely together, and I mean, we've seen the amazing impact of civil society organizations across the coalition that learn from each other. When the Malaysia campaign was just getting started, they learned from Neha's mom and the campaign in Nepal and all the amazing work that they did. And I think coming back to this question of why, if there are all these benefits of reform, why haven't governments changed them yet? You really both hit the nail on the head that it is this real interlay between xenophobia and fears that are really grounded in myths that there's an economic cost, when we know, and we have a guide out there on sustainable development goals and why you need gender equal nationality laws to achieve the sustainable development goals. We know that these reforms are in the best interest of countries, even if they don't care about their human rights record or gender equality. This supports sustainable, inclusive development. So we've seen in those countries, in Liberia and Sierra Leone, Madagascar, feminist organizations working with impacted families. In the case of Madagascar, we even in the first year of the campaign worked with the UN Refugee Agency and the Office of the High Commissioner for Refugees and our dear coalition member in Madagascar, Focused Development Association, a feminist organization that had been working tirelessly for years to lay the foundation, and brought together parliamentarians that made a commitment in that convening that they were going to put forward a bill to reform the law, and they did so when it comes to women's ability to confer on their children. I know we're coming close on time. We have a couple questions from online. I don't want to forget our online colleagues, so maybe we can do like a quick fire round of responses. I'll give you, I'm going to combine these questions together and put them out there. We have our dear colleague from our youth network in Eswatini, Mpumalanga, is mentioning the fact that there's ongoing litigation, as we know, in Eswatini, like there was in Malaysia. So turning to you, Neha, what are just a couple impactful strategies that you'd recommend? We have a colleague from Indonesia who's here who wants to know about strategies for grassroots community to create an inclusive community that empowers youth. They're referencing the example of people in their communities that are impacted by statelessness, such as Rohingya refugees. And there was a question about whether there should be universal, a case for universal citizenship laws applied across the board by different UN member states to make them inclusive and gender neutral. Yes, and a question about UNHCR's future work on this, including in the instance of Nepal, but where UNHCR is going to be engaging on this issue. So I threw a lot out there quite quickly. I hope my very expert and professional panelists can pick up on some points to respond to those questions.
So very quickly, just on
Yes.
the last points.
Yes.
I mean, I think we will obviously be seized of this issue worldwide, and not just in Nepal. We're facing huge headwinds on the budget side, as you all know. But I think this is a mandate issue for us, just like refugees is a mandate issue. So is statelessness. So certainly we will continue our work, and I just talked about the global alliance as well. That is something that we will be steadfastly trying to expand and really advocate for on stateless issues. So that remains.
On terms of the strategy that we can use at a grassroots level, on top of my head and from experience, I can think of really with the youth, especially impacted youth, because it's very important to center the voice of the impacted individuals and not having them at the table and discussing about their, like, our nationality rights without them having on the table is not possible. It's not, we shouldn't do that. So it's very important that we build the capacity. We also have to ensure that we look after their well-being, because they are themselves suffering and they also have to advocate, and there are a lot of risk issues. So well-being should be centered, and they're basically, they should be at the center of everything. Their capacity should be built. So those are the strategy I'm thinking, and obviously engaging them in all the creative things they can come up with. For example, the Vox Pop and everything that we're doing. And also to quickly, the idea somebody shared, would it be a nice idea to have a universal law, the universal law on citizenship, and have all the countries abide by it? That would be such a fun thing to do. But unfortunately, I think there is a concept in the international law, concept of sovereignty, where the nationality laws comes under the sovereignty of each state, which says that each state has their own sovereign power to define what their nationality laws is, who they want them as their citizens, who they don't want there as the citizens, and have those criteria. It's a sovereign rights. But at the same time, there's an international law saying that while you are doing that, make sure it's based on human rights. So although we cannot touch on the sovereign issue and we cannot have a uniform law, we can still hammer on the human rights issue, because it's not right that they are abusing and exploiting our human rights, and maintaining the sovereignty. And so we can still do that.
Thank you, Neha. I know we didn't get to answer everyone's questions. I put in chat, and to all of you, let's continue the conversation online. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We can keep the conversation going. We're going to share with all of you a toolkit for social media to help get the word out and to get signatures on that youth statement. The statement can be signed by folks of any and all ages. So it was drafted by youth, but we want support and we want that to be spread as widely as possible. So I want to thank so much our esteemed panelists. Thank you for your time here and Robbie online. Our dear co-sponsors, our interpreter, thank you for your patience and your support, our tech support with which we would be completely lost. So thank you so much. And really, I want to thank our audience in the room and online. We really will look forward to your support as we continue to take this campaign out there, and our dear youth network for bringing us to this point and creating the youth statement and all of the work that went into that. So thank you all, and best wishes for the rest of your youth forum.
Mhm.